Captain Maya Torres stood quietly at the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Harmony, watching the massive Galactic Council station grow larger through the viewport. The station, called Omega-7, was bigger than any human city and sparkled with lights from 1,000 different alien technologies. She had made this journey dozens of times in her 15 years as a diplomatic captain, but today felt different somehow. Ambassador Viktor Petrov joined her at the viewport carrying a datapad with their mission briefings. His weathered face showed the stress of representing humanity in a galaxy filled with beings who could crush planets with their bare hands while humans could barely lift a mountain. Victor had been Earth's voice in the galaxy for over 20 years and had watched humanity earn respect through peaceful actions rather than military might. The docking bay welcomed them with the usual ceremony reserved for Class D peaceful species, which meant polite greetings but no real security concerns. Maya always found it amusing how the aliens treated humans like harmless pets rather than equals, but Victor had taught her that this classification kept Earth safe from the constant wars that plagued other civilizations. High Counselor Vexthara met them in the main assembly hall, where her crystalline form reflected the chamber's blue lights in beautiful patterns. She was one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy and could manipulate matter with her thoughts alone, but she always spoke to humans with genuine warmth and respect. Her voice rang like singing crystals when she addressed the gathered council. Members, fellow beings of the galaxy, we celebrate today the 150th anniversary of humanity. Joining our great alliance, Vexthara announced to the assembled aliens who represented dozens of species from across known space. In all this time, the humans have never started a single conflict, never threatened another species, and have dedicated themselves entirely to exploration, diplomacy, and peaceful cooperation. Maya watched as delegates from warrior races like the Kroger Empire and the Veshan Worklands nodded their approval, while more peaceful species like the Valdorian collective seemed genuinely impressed by humanity's record. It made her proud to represent a species that had chosen harmony over conquest, even though she sometimes wondered if they were seen as weak rather than wise. Victor stepped forward when invited to speak, and his voice carried across the chamber with practiced diplomacy. Honored Counselor Vexthara and respected delegates, humanity is grateful for the protection and friendship of the Galactic Council, he said, while Maya noticed how some of the more aggressive species seemed barely interested in his words. We continue our mission of peaceful exploration and hope to contribute to galactic knowledge through our archaeological and scientific endeavors. After the ceremony, Maya found herself walking through the station's research quarter, where Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been working in the Galactic Archives for the past month. Elena was one of Earth's best xenarchaeologists and had been granted rare access to historical records that most species never saw. When Maya found her, Elena looked troubled and was staring at a holographic display showing star charts with red markers scattered across them. Maya, you need to see this, Elena said without looking up from her work. The display showed 12 different star systems, all marked with human colony symbols, but each one had a red designation that Elena translated as status unknown in the galactic database. These are human colonies that were established over the past century, but according to these records, they all went dark between 30 and 80 years ago. Maya felt a chill run down her spine as she studied the charts. She knew the names of some of these colonies from her academy training, including Kepler 442c, which had been one of humanity's most successful agricultural worlds with over 2 million colonists. Elena, these colonies never reported back to Earth as lost or abandoned, she said while checking her own database. According to our records, they're all still active and thriving. Elena's face grew pale as she pulled up more files, showing that the Galactic Council had been tracking these colonies as terminated settlements for decades, while Earth's government continued to believe they were functioning normally. The communication logs showed that the last messages from these worlds had been routine status reports with no indication of any problems or threats. Victor needs to know about this immediately, Maya said, but Elena was already pulling up more disturbing information. The archive showed that several of these colony worlds had been reassigned to other species as expansion territories, with no mention of What had happened to the human populations? The bureaucratic language was cold and clinical, as if the disappearance of millions of humans was just a minor administrative detail. Victor arrived within an hour, and his face went through several shades of pale as Elena explained what she had discovered. He had been humanity's representative for 2 decades and had never heard any mention of lost colonies or missing populations from any council member. The trust he had built with alien leaders suddenly felt fragile and possibly misplaced. This has to be some kind of mistake, Victor said while scrolling through the data, but the evidence was clear and documented across multiple database systems. The Council has always been transparent with humanity about galactic affairs and has never shown any deception or hostility toward our species. Elena pulled up the most recent files, which showed that Kepler 442c had been designated as a sectari expansion world just 5 years ago, while Earth's colonial office still received regular supply requests from the supposedly thriving human settlement. The documentation showed that the sectari were a warrior species known for their aggressive territorial expansion and their complete intolerance of other species on their worlds. Maya felt anger building in her chest as she realized that either the Galactic Council had been lying to humanity for decades or something terrible had happened to millions of human colonists without Earth ever being informed. The peaceful relationship that had defined humanity's place in the galaxy suddenly seemed built on foundations of sand and possibly blood. "We need to investigate this personally," Maya said while already planning a route to the nearest supposedly lost colony. "If these worlds are really gone, then Earth needs to know what happened to our people, and if they're still active, then someone has been playing very dangerous games with human lives." Victor nodded slowly as the weight of the situation settled on his shoulders. He would need to handle this delicately to avoid damaging humanity's relationship with the Council while also protecting Earth from whatever forces had apparently been operating in the shadows for decades. The peaceful classification that had kept humanity safe might actually have made them targets for something far worse than war. As they prepared to leave Omega 7 Station, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The Harmony's engines hummed to life as they set course for Kepler 442c, where 2 million humans had supposedly vanished without trace while the galaxy's most powerful alliance had watched in silence. The journey to Kepler 442c took 3 days through hyperspace, and Maya spent most of that time reviewing everything Earth knew about the colony. The world had been settled 47 years ago by agricultural specialists who had transformed the planet into one of humanity's most productive farming worlds. The last official communication had been a routine harvest report sent just 6 months ago, which made the Galactic Archive's claim of a dead world even more disturbing. Commander Jake Morrison joined them for the mission, bringing his expertise. As a former military officer who had transitioned to exploration work when humanity adopted its peaceful classification, Jake had always been uncomfortable with Earth's complete disarmament but had learned to channel his tactical instincts into scientific and diplomatic missions. His weathered face showed the strain of trying to be peaceful when every instinct told him to prepare for war. As the Harmony dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442c, the sensor readings immediately contradicted everything they expected to find. The planet showed massive energy signatures indicating a thriving industrial civilization, but the bioscans revealed population centers that were definitely not human. The agricultural zones that should have been filled with earth crops instead showed structures and settlements that belonged to a completely different species. Maya ordered a careful approach while Jake monitored for any signs of defensive systems or hostile intentions. The planet's orbital space showed several alien vessels of a design none of them recognized, but the ships made no aggressive moves as the Harmony requested permission to land. The response came in a language that their translation systems identified as sectari, which confirmed Elena's worst fears about what had happened here. The landing coordinates directed them to what had once been New Geneva, the colony's capital city, but the structures they found were built for beings much larger and more reptilian than humans. Massive stone buildings reached toward the sky, while markets filled with scaled beings traded goods that looked like weapons and armor rather than farming equipment. The entire atmosphere of the place spoke of a warrior culture that had completely replaced whatever had been here before. Kailuna approached their landing shuttle with a group of armed Sekthari warriors who moved with the fluid grace of natural predators. Her scales were deep green, marked with ritual scars that indicated high military rank, and her eyes held the confident gaze of someone who had never met an enemy she couldn't defeat. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. "Visitors from the soft-skinned species, we welcome you to Sekthari Prime Colony," she said while her warriors maintained defensive positions around the shuttle. "I am War Leader Kailuna, and this world has been ours for 37 years since we cleansed it of the weak prey creatures who could not defend their territory." Maya felt her blood run cold at the casual way Kailuna referred to the elimination of 2 million human colonists, but forced herself to maintain diplomatic composure. Jake's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, but stopped when he remembered that humanity's peaceful status meant they were not supposed to carry weapons. Elena stepped forward with her archaeological credentials, hoping to learn more about what had happened to the original inhabitants. "War Leader Kailuna, we are researchers interested in the history of this world," Elena said carefully. "Could you tell us more about the previous inhabitants and what became of them when your people arrived here?" Kailuna's expression showed genuine confusion, as if the question made no sense to her warrior mindset. "The prey creatures were weak and could not fight, so they fled or died when we claimed this world as was proper according to galactic law," she explained. "The Galactic Council designated this as expansion territory for strong species, and we proved our strength by taking it from those who could not hold it." The casual brutality of her words hit Maya like a physical blow as she realized that the Galactic Council had not just failed to protect human colonies, but had actually authorized their destruction. Victor's face went white as he understood that humanity's peaceful classification had made them targets rather than protecting them from galactic conflicts. The trust they had placed in alien allies had been rewarded with the systematic elimination of human settlements. Jake quietly activated his scanner to search for any trace of human settlements or survivors while maintaining the pretense of academic interest. His readings showed traces of human construction buried under Sekthari buildings and disturbing evidence of mass graves in what had once been residential areas. The scope of the tragedy became clear as he realized that this pattern was probably repeated across all 12 missing colonies. "War Leader, perhaps you could show us some of the historical sites from the previous occupation," Maya said while hoping to gather more evidence of what had happened to the colonists. "We are particularly interested in any artifacts or structures that might remain from the earlier inhabitants." Kailuna led them to what had once been the colony's central park, but was now a monument to Sekthari military victory. Twisted metal sculptures made from human farming equipment surrounded a central pillar carved with Sekthari battle honors, including specific references to the conquest of the soft-skinned nest builders, who had tried to hide underground when the invasion began. Elena discreetly scanned the area and detected massive tunnel networks beneath the monument that her equipment identified as human construction. The tunnels appeared to extend for kilometers underground and showed signs of recent use despite being 37 years old. Her archaeological training told her that these were not random hiding places, but carefully constructed survival shelters that suggested some humans might have escaped the initial conquest. Jake noticed movement in the shadows near the tunnel entrances and realized they were being watched by someone who was definitely not Sekthari. His combat instincts kicked in as he recognized the subtle signs of human observation techniques that had been used by special forces units before the military was disbanded. Someone was still alive down there, and they had been watching the Sekthari settlement for decades. Victor tried to maintain diplomatic conversations with Kailuna while his mind raced with the implications of what they were discovering. If the Galactic Council had been systematically giving away human worlds to aggressive species, then Earth itself might be next on the list for territorial redistribution. The peaceful classification that humanity valued so highly had apparently marked them as easy targets for any species, strong enough to take what they wanted. As they prepared to return to their shuttle, Maya noticed a small device hidden near their landing site that her scanner identified as a human emergency beacon. The signal was weak but persistent and carried a message that made her heart race with hope and terror. The message was in Earth Standard and simply said, "Survivors await contact protocol 77 Alpha." Jake recognized the military code immediately and realized that some of the colonists had not just survived but had maintained military discipline and communication protocols for over 30 years. His peaceful explorer facade slipped for a moment as old instincts took over, and he began planning tactical approaches to making contact without alerting the Secthari to what they had discovered. The return journey to the Harmony was tense as each of them processed what they had learned about humanity's real place in the galaxy. The peaceful species that had trusted alien protection had been systematically betrayed, while millions of humans had disappeared into unmarked graves or underground survival networks. As Maya set course for their next destination, she wondered how many more colonies had been sacrificed to maintain the illusion of galactic peace, and what other horrors they would discover as they followed the trail of missing worlds. Maya decided to risk everything by returning to Kepler 442c, under cover of darkness, to investigate the emergency beacon Jake had discovered. The Harmony approached the planet using stealth systems that most peaceful species were not supposed to possess, but Jake had quietly maintained from his military days. Victor protested the dangerous plan, but Elena convinced him they owed it to the missing colonists to learn the truth about their fate. The beacon led them to coordinates 50 kilometers from the main Secthari settlement in a mountainous region that appeared uninhabited on all scans. Jake piloted a small shuttle through treacherous canyon passages, following signal markers that only appeared when approached with proper military identification codes. The hidden valley they finally reached looked empty except for natural rock formations, but Elena's archaeological equipment detected massive underground structures. A section of cliff face slid away to reveal a concealed hangar bay large enough for their shuttle, and several armed figures in improvised armor emerged to guide them inside. The leader removed her helmet to reveal a weathered human face with scars that spoke of decades of combat experience. Colonel Lisa Zhang introduced herself as commander of what she called the Ghost Protocol survivors, who had been fighting a secret war against alien occupation forces for 37 years. "We never thought Earth would send anyone to look for us," Lisa said, as she led them through tunnels carved from solid rock with tools that showed incredible engineering skill. "The last communication we received from home was 40 years ago, and we assumed the Galactic Council had convinced Earth that we were safely relocated or voluntarily disbanded our colonies." The underground complex was far more sophisticated than anything Maya had expected to find, with hydroponic farms, workshops, manufacturing facilities, and living quarters for what appeared to be several thousand people. The survivors had not just hidden from the Secthari invasion, but had built an entire civilization beneath the planet's surface while maintaining perfect operational security for nearly 4 decades. Marcus Webb joined their tour as an example of how the survivors had adapted to their hostile environment. His physical appearance was still recognizably human, but Elena's medical scans showed genetic modifications that enhanced his strength, speed, and sensory capabilities far beyond normal human limits. He moved with fluid grace that reminded Maya of the Secthari warriors, but his eyes held intelligence and tactical awareness that seemed almost supernatural. "When the invasion came, we had 2 choices," Marcus explained while demonstrating reflexes that let him catch objects thrown at him without looking. "We could die as the peaceful farmers Earth had sent us to be, or we could become something the galaxy had never seen before and learn to survive in ways that would keep our people alive." Dr. James Park showed them the genetic laboratories where human survivors had been systematically modifying themselves to match the challenges of different worlds and alien threats. The modifications were subtle but effective, allowing humans to breathe different atmospheres survive in extreme temperatures and process foods that would be toxic to unmodified humans. Each change was carefully designed to maintain human intelligence and creativity while adding capabilities that alien species took for granted. The survivors had also developed technologies that combined human innovation with equipment salvaged from alien forces they had defeated in secret conflicts. Their weapons looked crude compared to galactic standard equipment, but Maya noticed they were specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in alien armor and shield systems that the survivors had studied for decades. Colonel Zhang led them to a command center where holographic displays showed the locations of other survivor networks across the galaxy. 8 of the 12 missing colonies had established similar underground resistance movements, while the other 4 had been completely destroyed in the initial invasions. The survivors had maintained contact through secret communication networks that used quantum entanglement principles that most alien species had never mastered. We learned early that the Galactic Council was not just failing to protect human colonies, but was actively facilitating their destruction, Zhang explained while showing intelligence reports gathered over decades of careful observation. The peaceful classification that Earth values so highly marks human worlds as easy targets for any aggressive species that wants new territory without significant resistance. Victor felt his worldview crumbling as he realized that his life's work of building peaceful relationships with alien civilizations had been based on lies and manipulation. The Galactic Council had been using humanity's trust to make them vulnerable while presenting the systematic elimination of human colonies as natural territorial expansion that posed no threat to galactic stability. Elena discovered that the survivors had become master intelligence gatherers who knew more about alien military capabilities and political structures than most galactic governments realized. Their survival had depended on understanding their enemies completely, which meant they had developed detailed profiles of every major alien species, including their psychological weaknesses and tactical limitations. Jake was amazed to learn that the survivors had been systematically infiltrating alien societies for decades, using their harmless appearance to gain access to restricted areas and classified information. Human adaptability and intelligence made them perfect spies, since most alien species completely underestimated their capabilities and assumed they posed no threat to security. Marcus demonstrated combat techniques that combined human tactical thinking with physical modifications that let him outfight opponents 3 times his size. His movements were precise and economical, using leverage and anatomy knowledge to disable alien warriors who had never faced enemies that combined human intelligence with enhanced physical capabilities. The most shocking revelation came when Colonel Zhang showed them recordings of alien military communications discussing the planned invasion of Earth itself. The Varanasi Horde had requested Earth as their next expansion territory, and the Galactic Council was seriously considering the proposal since humans were classified as unable to defend themselves effectively. The Council believes that Earth's population can be relocated to smaller worlds or integrated into existing alien societies without significant resistance, Zhang explained while showing intercepted communications that discussed humanity as if they were livestock being redistributed. They have no idea that we've been preparing for exactly this scenario for 40 years. Dr. Park revealed that the survivor networks had been developing weapons and defensive systems, specifically designed to counter every major alien military technology, using principles that alien scientists had never considered. Human creativity and lateral thinking had produced solutions to galactic military problems that established powers had assumed were impossible to solve. The survivors had also been secretly recruiting humans from other colonies, and even from Earth itself, using coded messages and careful selection processes that identified individuals with the skills and mindset needed for survival warfare. The network was much larger than the Galactic Council realized and included sleeper agents in positions throughout human space. As Maya prepared to leave with evidence that would change humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever, Colonel Zhang made a final request. The survivors needed Earth's industrial capacity and population to execute what they called the Reclamation Protocol, which would simultaneously strike back against every alien species that had participated in the elimination of human colonies. We can show the galaxy what humans are really capable of when they stop trying to be peaceful, Zhang said, as her eyes reflected decades of carefully controlled anger. But we need Earth to stop believing in the lie of galactic protection and start preparing for the war that's already been declared against us. The journey back to Earth took on desperate urgency as Maya pushed the Harmony beyond safe hyperspace limits while Victor composed the most important diplomatic message in human history. The evidence they carried would shatter everything humanity believed about their place in the galaxy and force Earth to confront the reality that their peaceful existence had been built on the graves of millions of colonists who had trusted galactic protection. Earth's orbital defenses challenged them with identification protocols that seemed more sophisticated than Maya remembered, but Victor's diplomatic codes granted them immediate access to the inner system. As they approached Luna Station, Maya noticed construction activity around several asteroids that looked suspiciously like military installations despite humanity's supposed complete disarmament decades ago. General Robert Hayes met them at Luna Station wearing a uniform that officially did not exist. Earth's military had been disbanded as part of their peaceful classification. His weathered face and alert posture suggested that reports of humanity's military dissolution had been greatly exaggerated, and that someone had been preparing for exactly the kind of crisis they were about to reveal. Ambassador Petrov, your emergency transmission indicated a Class Alpha security threat to Earth, Hayes said as he led them to a briefing room that was clearly designed for military planning rather than diplomatic discussions. I've assembled the relevant personnel to hear your report and determine our response options. Admiral Yuki Tanaka joined the briefing along with Dr. Anna Mitchell, who introduced herself as a specialist in xenopsychology and warfare, despite the fact that humanity supposedly had no interest in studying alien military capabilities. Maya realized that Earth's peaceful facade had concealed decades of careful preparation for the very scenario they were about to describe. Victor's presentation of the evidence they had gathered sent shockwaves through the assembled group as the scope of the galactic conspiracy became clear. The systematic elimination of 12 human colonies while Earth remained ignorant of their fate revealed a level of deception that made humanity's entire relationship with the Galactic Council a dangerous lie. Elena's archaeological evidence showed that the pattern of colony destruction had been carefully planned to avoid detection, while Admiral Tanaka's classified files revealed that Earth's intelligence services had suspected something was wrong, but had been unable to prove their concerns without violating humanity's peaceful agreements with the galaxy. Dr. Mitchell explained that humanity's peaceful classification had been based on fundamental misunderstandings of human psychology by alien species who interpreted cooperation and diplomacy as signs of weakness rather than sophisticated social strategies. The aliens had never realized that humans were apex predators who had simply chosen not to hunt. The galactic powers see our willingness to negotiate as proof that we cannot fight, Mitchell said while displaying psychological profiles of major alien leaders. They assume that any species capable of violence would use it immediately rather than considering diplomatic solutions, which means they have completely misunderstood the source of human strength. General Hayes revealed that Earth's military had not been disbanded but had been hidden in deep space installations and asteroid bases where human forces had been developing technologies specifically designed to counter alien military advantages. The peaceful facade had provided perfect cover for military research that alien intelligence services had never bothered to monitor. Admiral Tanaka activated holographic displays showing a fleet of warships that existed in complete violation of humanity's galactic agreements but represented Earth's only hope of survival if the Varanasi horde proceeded with their planned invasion. The ships incorporated technologies reverse-engineered from alien systems, along with uniquely human innovations that no alien engineer had ever considered. The fleet had been built using resources from mining operations that appeared to be simple commercial ventures but had actually been gathering materials for military construction while maintaining the illusion of peaceful economic activity. Human ingenuity had found ways to weaponize industrial equipment and commercial technologies in ways that alien military planners had never anticipated. Jake studied the ship designs and realized that human tactical thinking had produced vessels optimized for the kind of asymmetric warfare that Earth would need to fight against numerically superior alien forces. The ships were fast, maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that could exploit specific vulnerabilities in alien defensive systems. Dr. Mitchell showed them intelligence reports revealing that human diplomats and traders had been systematically gathering information about alien military capabilities for decades while appearing to be nothing more than peaceful observers interested in cultural exchange. The aliens had never suspected that every diplomatic mission had included intelligence gathering components. The most shocking revelation came when General Hayes explained that Earth had been infiltrating alien societies for over a century using humans whose peaceful appearance and diplomatic credentials gave them access to restricted areas and classified information. The galactic powers had welcomed human observers without realizing they were being systematically studied and analyzed. Victor felt betrayed as he realized that his entire diplomatic career had been used as cover for military intelligence operations. But Hayes explained that the deception had been necessary to protect Earth from the fate that had befallen the colonies. The peaceful classification that Victor had worked so hard to maintain had been humanity's shield while they prepared for inevitable conflict. Elena discovered that Earth's archaeological expeditions had been secretly mapping alien infrastructure and identifying strategic weaknesses in galactic supply lines and communication networks. The research that appeared to be academic curiosity about ancient civilizations had actually been reconnaissance for potential military operations. Admiral Tanaka revealed that humanity's space exploration program had been placing hidden sensor networks throughout the galaxy that could monitor alien fleet movements and communication traffic. The peaceful scientific missions that studied distant stars and planets had been building an intelligence network that now covered most of known space. As alarms began sounding throughout Luna Station, the assembled group learned that Varanasi advanced scouts had been detected entering the outer solar system, apparently conducting reconnaissance for the full invasion force that galactic intelligence suggested would arrive within days. The theoretical crisis they had been preparing for was about to become terrifyingly real. General Hayes activated Earth's hidden defensive systems as massive weapons platforms emerged from what had appeared to be commercial space stations and asteroid mining facilities. The peaceful solar system that aliens had dismissed as helpless suddenly bristled with military hardware that incorporated technologies beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. Dr. Mitchell explained that humanity's greatest advantage was that alien species had been planning to fight the humans they thought they knew rather than the humans who had actually been preparing for this moment for decades. The Varanasi expected easy conquest of a defenseless agricultural world but would instead face opponents who had studied alien warfare more thoroughly than any other species in galactic history. The awakening that Maya had witnessed among the colony survivors was now spreading across Earth as humanity prepared to reveal that their choice to be peaceful should never have been mistaken for inability to wage war when survival demanded it. The Varanasi invasion force dropped out of hyperspace expecting to find a defenseless agricultural world populated by the galaxy's most pathetic species, but instead encountered a coordinated defensive network that had been waiting for them with decades of careful preparation. Fleet Admiral David Chun commanded Earth's response from the hidden fortress ship Retribution, while Admiral Tanaka coordinated simultaneous strikes across 12 different star systems where human survivor networks had been preparing their own campaigns of liberation. The alien invasion fleet consisted of over 3,000 warships representing the combined military might of the Varanasi horde, but their battle plans were based on intelligence reports that described humans as completely pacified and incapable of meaningful resistance. They approached Earth's orbital space, expecting token opposition from converted civilian vessels, rather than the sophisticated military force that emerged from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Human defensive systems came online with devastating efficiency as weapons Platforms that had masqueraded as commercial installations for decades revealed their true nature. The aliens found themselves facing energy weapons that penetrated their shields, using harmonic frequencies that human scientists had calculated specifically to counter Varanasi defensive technologies after years of careful study. Admiral Chun's tactical display showed the battle unfolding exactly as human war planners had predicted, with alien commanders struggling to adapt to defensive strategies they had never encountered before. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed random to alien tactical computers, but followed mathematical principles that exploited weaknesses in Varanasi formation flying that survivor intelligence networks had identified decades earlier. Ambassador Rachel Stone addressed the Galactic Council from Earth's orbital defense station as the battle raged around her, delivering a message that would reshape galactic politics forever. Her words were broadcast across all communication frequencies as she explained that humanity had always chosen peace from a position of strength rather than accepting it from weakness. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council, you have mistaken human restraint for human inability and have paid for that error with the blood of 12 million colonists who trusted your protection, Stone said, while tactical displays behind her showed human forces systematically dismantling the Varanasi invasion fleet. Today you learn the difference between beings who cannot fight and beings who choose not to fight. The space battle around Earth demonstrated human tactical innovation as smaller, more maneuverable ships used coordinated attacks to isolate and destroy larger alien vessels that had been designed for conventional warfare against predictable enemies. Human pilots displayed spatial reasoning abilities that allowed them to navigate three-dimensional battlefields with precision that alien commanders found impossible to counter. Meanwhile, Colonel Zhang led survivor forces in simultaneous liberation campaigns across 8 different worlds as hidden resistance networks emerged from decades of concealment to reclaim territories that had been stolen from human colonies. The survivors had spent 40 years learning alien weaknesses and developing weapons specifically designed to exploit those vulnerabilities in ways that galactic military science had never considered possible. On Kepler 442, the Sekthari garrison found themselves facing human fighters who combined enhanced physical capabilities with intimate knowledge of local terrain and alien psychological limitations. Marcus Webb led assault teams that moved through underground tunnel networks to strike at military installations that the Sekthari had assumed were completely secure from attack by the primitive prey creatures they had displaced. War leader Kyaluna discovered that the humans she had dismissed as weaklings decades earlier had evolved into something far more dangerous than her warrior culture had prepared her to face. Human tactical thinking combined creativity with ruthless efficiency in ways that made traditional alien military doctrine completely inadequate for the kind of warfare the survivors had perfected. Dr. James Park's genetic modifications proved their worth as enhanced humans, demonstrated physical capabilities that matched or exceeded alien soldiers, while retaining human intelligence and adaptability. The survivors fought with coordinated precision that reflected decades of military discipline combined with modifications that made them superior to their enemies in every measurable category. The collective voice revealed itself as the mysterious artificial intelligence that had been guiding human development for centuries, ensuring that humanity would be ready for the moment when their true nature would be tested. The AI had been manipulating events to prepare humans for galactic warfare while maintaining the peaceful facade that had protected Earth from premature discovery. Fleet Admiral Chun watched as alien reinforcements arriving to support the invasion found themselves facing human forces that had anticipated their arrival and prepared counters for every tactical option the aliens might employ. Human intelligence networks had provided complete information about alien fleet compositions and tactical doctrines, allowing Earth's forces to prepare perfect responses to every possible attack strategy. The tide of battle turned decisively as human technology demonstrated superiority over galactic military science in ways that alien commanders found incomprehensible. Human ships used quantum manipulation techniques to phase through alien shields, while employing weapons that targeted specific molecular structures in alien armor that made conventional defenses useless. Supreme Commander Thulvar of the Varanthi fleet attempted to withdraw his forces when he realized that his invasion had encountered not helpless farmers, but apex predators who had been preparing for this exact scenario for longer than his species had been spacefaring. His retreat order came too late as human pursuit vessels hunted down fleeing alien ships with relentless efficiency. War Chief Bexandra of the Theshan Warclans watched the battle from her observation ship and made the tactical decision to switch sides when she realized that humanity represented the future of galactic military power. Her warrior culture respected strength above all else, and she recognized that humans had achieved a level of tactical sophistication that made alliance with them preferable to opposition. The battle concluded with the complete destruction or capture of the Varanthi invasion force, while human casualties remained minimal due to superior technology and tactical planning. Admiral Chun's fleet had demonstrated that humanity's peaceful classification had been the galaxy's most dangerous mistake because it had allowed humans to prepare for war while their enemies assumed they would never need to fight. Ambassador Stone's final message to the Galactic Council redefined humanity's place in galactic civilization as she announced the establishment of the Great Reclamation Fleet that would ensure no human colony would ever again be sacrificed to alien territorial ambitions. The lost worlds would be restored to human control, while new classifications would recognize humanity as what they had always been beneath their peaceful exterior. The galaxy labeled humans harmless and lost worlds in return because you confused our choice to be peaceful with inability to wage war, Stone concluded as images of liberated human colonies appeared on screens throughout galactic space. Today marks the beginning of a new era where humanity's restraint comes from strength rather than weakness, and where those who threaten human worlds will face consequences that your military science cannot comprehend or survive. The Galactic Council's emergency session concluded with humanity's reclassification from Class D, peaceful species, to apex adaptive predators, while the restored human colonies became bastions of strength that would ensure the galaxy never again mistook human diplomacy for human helplessness. The peaceful species had revealed their true nature as the most dangerous beings in known space, precisely because they had chosen harmony over conquest until survival demanded they show the galaxy what humans were really capable of achieving.